Are you ladies ready?
Yes.
All right, here we go.
It's happening.
I know. Here we go. I'm going to say it one time again. It's my favorite part. Heather's dancing. She's putting on a groove over there. Hey, ladies. Thank you for coming.
Thanks for having us here.
Joyna Heinz here. Heather Mackin, the Mac. Oh my God. This is a special episode. I'm going to actually be official and tell everybody what's happening here. We don't have Phil. Philly Phil couldn't make it because he had a work thing. And so now I'm starting to be a pro in the whole production side of things. The second episode now I've had to do without Phil. But it actually works out perfectly because I think we're going to do a deep dive into some girly stuff. Actually, it's not girly stuff, right? It's just dating conversation from the woman's perspective. So that's why, Joyna and I were going to do this episode, and originally we thought we'd have Phil in here, and then I thought, let's get creative. Actually, Joyna's idea, right, is let's do a deep dive from the women's perspective, and then later we'll follow up with the dude's perspective as well, maybe when Phil gets back. So, and I'm glad, Heather, that you could join us today.
So
because
I'm the female Phil.
You are the female Phil. I've realized that in the podcast, the 3 is the sweet combination for energy, and I don't think it really is about men and women. You know, how many guys versus how many girls. I think just 3 people in the conversation, at least for me, feels like our typical kind of happy hour vibe, right?
Yeah.
So we're gonna give that one a try. Joyna. Oh my God, it's been so long since you've been here.
It is, but I'm back, which
You're
is super
back.
exciting.
You are the first, besides Buka, who kind of filled in a lot of times when we didn't have a guest, right? If somebody had to cancel or couldn't make it or something. You're the first returning guest that I pitched, that you agreed to come on. We did unfortunately have to reschedule once, right?
Right, but we're going in a totally different tangent, which is great.
I am excited. So Heather, this is how this started. One day, Joyna came in. She was here kind of, not after hours because we're 24 hours, right? But at the end of the day, and we just got to catching up and kind of shooting the shit a little bit and got on the conversation about dating, and more specifically online dating, because Joyna had just kind of jumped in on that bandwagon. I'd been kind of on and off for a while. And the conversation quickly turned into, oh God, what about, there's so much to talk about. And finally I was like, stop. Let's just stop right here. This has to be a podcast conversation. I don't even want to finish it because I really wanted to unfold on the podcast. Couple that with this conversation I had this morning. Don't be shy, by the way, Heather. You're sitting there with your hands in your lap and you're all sweet.
I'm waiting for my few seconds of time that I spent online dating and to share that story.
Well, so first of all, there is something that has been going on for me in this whole podcast journey. You guys have watched this unfold for last year, right? And it started out with me being like, oh, this is something I want to do, and not even knowing what that was going to look like. And it's kind of evolved, and through mastermind meetings and all that kind of stuff, I've kind of gotten a direction. One thing that I have been a little bit struggling with is I want, for me, creatively and personally, this is kind of an opportunity for me to unveil a lot of sides about me that most people don't get to see regularly. And it's a vehicle for me to practice getting vulnerable. And that's what my intention is for this, in the sense that this is unfiltered, right? It's unedited. For the most part, we just kind of have happy hour conversations and they end up on the air. And a lot of people enjoy the fact that they feel like they're in the room while we're talking. But I've been feeling a little bit like an imposter because there have been occasions where there are conversations happening, and I have filtered myself a little bit because I have a 13-year-old daughter. And as I've been as I've been going down this road, I've been like, oh, I'll catching myself because I'm like, oh, if my daughter heard that, would I be okay with it? And so I feel a little bit of an imposter because I'm like, wow, but I'm not being vulnerable. I'm not deep diving when I really feel like I want to be. And so I thought, oh, Heather and I talked about this a little bit. I have to have a conversation with my daughter and just explain to her. So I did this morning, and I just said, look, you know about the podcast. You know that I frequently, when we're with friends, right, we have adult conversations, whether it's in the kitchen or in the yard, whatever, over a glass of wine while you kids are out doing your thing. This is the same thing, which means it's not always appropriate for you to listen to, whether it's because there are there's foul language, or it's just adult topic, or whatever. And I said, so I just want you to understand what this podcast is about, so that if you do end up listening to it, because I knew if I just said to her, you can't hear it, she'd go look for it. She'd go look for it in an hour. She looks at me and she says, she puts her hand on my arm, and she says, how cute that you think I actually listen to your podcast.
I think I originally said something like that to you.
Oh, I said, well, no, it's not even about if you listen to it, but if your friends listen to it, or your friends' parents listen to it, and you hear, oh, I heard your mom on the podcast the other day, and there were some guys in the room, and they were throwing the C word around or whatever. I said, it's just more that you have to understand there's content here that's not for your ears, but I want to do it, and I'm going to do it more authentically. So I had that conversation today, and she kind of was like, whatevs, and moved on. And I was like, great.
I'm learning they don't give a shit at all.
It's true. They don't give a shit. So it's perfect, because now I feel like today, especially, I can dive in as deep as I want, and we can have a really great conversation about how fucking sucky it is to date. And I don't know if it's sucky in Sonoma County, if it's sucky in Petaluma. I don't know. It's me. I really don't know. I need all the information. I need all of it. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I need a glass of wine.
Yeah. And now you've released the only shackles that you've had on yourself to be able to go there.
And I'm a little bit scared shitless now, because I really did take away my last excuse to be real. So...
Well, I have to say, welcome, vulnerable Danielle. Welcome.
I'm a little scared.
It's about time.
I mean, you guys have seen a side of me that most people on the podcast haven't.
No, which is why it makes this conversation really magical too. Is that we're not going to be superficial this time. It's like, no, let's just be ourselves. Let's be authentic, and let's see where it goes.
Yes, for sure. So, I want to hear. So, dating specifically online. Here, we're going to talk about. I think we're going to talk about Hinge probably more than some of the other platforms, mostly because, well, I don't know, actually, Heather, what you use.
This will actually be a learning episode for me, because I used OkCupid, I don't know, 7 years ago or something, my one stint at online dating. And I haven't done it outside of that. I do it the old-fashioned way. I meet people at the bar.
Yeah. At the awesome dive bars in downtown Petaluma. The donkey. Hashtag. Is it Roaring Donkey?
It's Roaring Donkey.
Roaring Donkey. And Joyna, you're doing a little both, right? Or you were?
Yeah. Well, I guess backtracking a little bit, I took a 2.5-year hiatus from dating. I was like, I need to work on myself, because the men that I'm drawing to me are not quite what I'm looking for.
I did the exact same thing.
Yeah, so I took a long time to really just do a lot of soul searching and changing and shifting, which was great. And then I finally got to a point where I'm like, okay, I'm ready to get out there.
Now I need to have sex.
Yeah, we're definitely itching for that. I'm like, oh, man.
I actually took a vow of celibacy.
So shut up.
I did. I took this amazing... sex and communication day-long meditation retreat at Spirit Rock, and with a teacher. I love
that place.
Yeah, with a teacher of mine from LA who's just awesome, and it was like half the room was punk rockers, so it was totally my vibe.
Oh, nice.
But I recognized a few things. Same thing, Joyna, that I was just really attracting just the same shit over and over again, and really it becomes this self-fulfilling prophecy.
Right, it's not them.
It's absolutely not them. It's exactly us. So I'm like, I need a reset, man. And at first, the first time I did it, it lasted 3 months, and I went back to same one. And then I had a reset again. I'm like, no. Okay, now I know what this feels like. And it was so much better. I felt like so in control of what... Nope, I know what I want and don't want now.
Mm-hmm. So do you think that there's value? Because I did something seriously...
In being celibate?
Yes. And No, in the fact that if you go through that same process, but you don't do it as a deliberate measure. So for me, for example, I went through a really difficult divorce, and there was a lot of sexual issues that I had both in that marriage, coming out of that marriage, and as I look back, even prior to that. So I did not, when I went through that divorce, I didn't have a thought in my head that was like, you just need to stay away from dudes. You need to stop, like, you need to be celibate. I was so damaged that sex or intimacy or boyfriends or dating never even entered my thought process. I never said, I don't want to date. I just did not. I didn't look in the direction, nor did the thought ever enter my mouth or my mind about being with somebody for almost 2 years. Almost 2 years. And so I'm wondering if, like, I didn't choose to, like, be celibate to work on myself. I did a shit ton of work on myself in that point out of survival.
I agree.
And so I went through the same process.
It was almost like the light switch turned off.
Yes, exactly. Somebody turned off the light switch.
Somebody turned it off. And for me, it was to the point where I couldn't even drink alcohol. Like, alcohol would make me feel like puking. And I was like, what's going on? So I couldn't, same thing. I couldn't even see men. When people were like, you should get out and date, I was like, that's the last thing I can do right now.
Well, that's where I'm at right now. That is the last thing I'm interested in right now.
I think that is so weird to me.
Well,
it's not weird to me. It's not weird to me because we're talking about having gone.
Because I had a similar divorce where there was sexual issues. There was just a lot of oppression that came out of that. So coming out the other side of that, I did the exact opposite, and I, like, hoed myself out.
Yeah.
And that was, a coping mechanism. And it was like, no, it wasn't me. It was whatever was between us. It wasn't me. Like, I got this down.
And it was a survival strategy too.
Yeah. And it wasn't until later that I realized, well, you know what? That's not healthy behavior either.
Okay. Stop right there.
Yeah.
Why was it not healthy? I mean, I know now, like, I guess intellectually we probably know how that could potentially not be good behavior. But
it's the who and the when.
Okay, that's what I was going to say. Did you think it was not healthy because you were sleeping with dirtbags, or was it not healthy because you were just sleeping around? In which case, I might argue.
Yeah, no, it's definitely was a who and a when, not a what. So the sleeping around, I have no problem. There's no slut shaming here. Have as much sex as you want. It's the choices that we pick of the people we choose to be with, and are those appropriate choices? And for a period of time, no, they were not appropriate choices. They were not in circumstances where I was thinking, mindfully about the choice. So the behavior around it was not healthy.
That makes sense.
A while ago, I actually termed it junk food sex.
It's totally junk
where
food
you
sex.
really, really want it and you crave it, and then you feel
Mexican
shitty afterwards.
Food?
Yeah, or
not necessarily.
Or you just go, that was yummy.
Yeah.
Literally.
Yeah.
Okay.
But is it something that you want all the time?
No.
I want a 10-course meal.
I'd argue that.
Yeah.
Sometimes I just want junk food.
Oh yeah, but all the time?
Well, I might be growing up a little bit now. Yeah. I did the opposite of Heather. I ran from intimacy and both physical and emotional. And then I met a person. Literally, it wasn't even like I was at a party with a bunch of couple friends, which is what my life is. It's so bullshit. But basically, all of my friends are a part of a couple. They all feel sorry for me. They always invite me everywhere, and I'm always a single person. We went to a party. I met somebody randomly. We didn't actually even reconnect for a couple of weeks later. And then I was like, oh, hello. What the fuck just happened? More, please. More, please. And 2 years later, I'm still like, more, please. Yeah. So I don't know. I guess, as goes with the rest of my life, these choices probably haven't been deliberate, and they've kind of just unfolded in front of me. That's changing. Now I'm starting to kind of, I went from one extreme to the other, and now I'm starting to swing toward the center of like, okay, what is interesting to me in a more, global view, not just, being satisfied physically, but like what else can come with that person who's satisfying me physically